What is identity and how do texts construct an identity? We'll talk about that today. Welcome back. In a previous video, we explored the IB concept of representation and considered how texts shape our understanding of reality through deliberate authorial choices. Today, we are going to build on that idea by exploring an important IB concept of identity. Identity is one of the 7 conceptual understandings in IB English because every text, whether it's literary or non-literary, presents people, places, cultures, institutions, and ideas in particular ways. Our focus today is to understand how identity is communicated, shaped, and interpreted through texts. By the end of this video, you'll be able to recognize that every representation contributes to the construction of identity. So what is identity really? When we think about identity in everyday life, we often associate it with characteristics like personality, nationality, culture, language, beliefs, or values. These are all meaningful aspects of identity and provide an important starting point for conversations. In IB English, however, we extend this understanding by asking additional questions. How do texts shape our understanding of identity? Every text makes choices about what to emphasize, what to leave out, and how to position its subject before an audience. As readers, we examine how these choices influence the identities we come to recognize. Even objects, organizations, historical events, and famous artworks can develop distinctive identities depending on how they are represented. So we look at one artwork which is going to give us multiple identities. Let us consider one example of the Mona Lisa. Across history, this painting has appeared in many different forms. Leonardo da Vinci presents it as a Renaissance masterpiece, admired for its artistic skill and balance. Marcel Duchamp presents it through satire, encouraging audiences to question traditional ideas about art. Andy Warhol transforms it into an icon of popular culture, reflecting ideas about mass production and media. And commercial advertising uses the same image to create associations through products to create a consumer desire. Although the artwork remains the same, each creator encourages the audiences to make interpretations differently. Each representation contributes to a different identity. This example illustrates a very important IB principle. Identity is influenced by authorial choices. Every creator decides how to frame the subject, which details to foreground, which perspectives to privilege, and which meaning audiences are encouraged to notice. Each representation invites audiences to engage with the same subject through different conceptual lenses. Rather than asking which identity is correct, IB encourages us to explore how each identity has been constructed and for what purpose. Remember, the discourse changes, the object does not. Another useful way of understanding identity is through the idea of discourse. A discourse refers to a broader conversations, values, beliefs, cultural assumptions that surround a text. The physical Mona Lisa remains unchanged. What changes is the cultural conversation that surrounds it. During the Renaissance, it symbolized artistic achievement. Within the Dada movement, it became a part of conversation about challenging authority. In pop culture, it represents celebrity and reproduction, and in advertising, it becomes a persuasive commercial image. As the discourse changes, the identity associated with the artwork also evolves. Remember, identity rarely operates in isolation. Instead, it has a connection with several other IB concepts. Representation helps to examine how identity is created. Perspective encourages us to consider whose point of view shapes this identity. And culture reminds us that identities are influenced by historical, political, and social contexts. Transformation allows us to explore how identities evolve in texts that are adapted, reinterpreted, or read by new audiences. Looking at these concepts together leads to a richer and a more meaningful analysis. As you analyze text throughout this course, these concepts guide your thinking. So ask yourself these questions. How has representation constructed this identity? Whose perspective is influencing this portrayal? How does culture shape the way in which identity is understood? And has transformation altered the identity across different contexts or time periods? These conceptual questions move your analysis beyond description towards a richer interpretation. It encourages us to explore not only what the text is communicating, but how meaning is produced for the reader. Understanding identity supports every major assessment in the IB. In paper 1, you analyze how authorial choices shape the identities presented within a text. In paper 2, you compare how different writers construct identities across literary works. During an individual oral, identity often becomes closely connected to the global issue, allowing you to explore how texts shape perspectives, relationships, and social realities. Also, in an HL essay, you can provide a conceptual lens through which you can investigate the author's body of work with a focus on identity. So this concept becomes a very powerful analytical tool throughout your course. As we conclude, remember one central idea. Every representation reflects choices. These choices influence how audiences understand people, cultures, places, institutions, and ideas. And as readers, our role is to explore how this identity has been constructed, which values or assumptions it is communicating for the reader, and how might different audiences interpret this. These questions lie at the heart of conceptual analysis in the IB English. I will leave you with a final thought. Every representation is also an interpretation. Whenever an author writes a novel, a photographer captures an image, or a filmmaker makes a film or creates a scene, or an advertiser creates a campaign, authorial choices are being made, which influence meaning for the reader and shape interpretation for you. In doing so, they contribute to the construction of an identity. And as IB students, it's our task to recognize those authorial choices, analyze their effect, and understand how the text invites us to see the world in a particular way. Thank you so much.